Ladies, gentlemen, with the benefit of hindsight, alcohol prohibition was obviously a mistake. Yet today, the federal government imposes the same prohibition policies on drugs other than alcohol with the same results. The most destructive element in the illegal drugs controversy is not the individual's physiological or psychological use in using them, but rather the social damage that's done by legislation prohibiting drug use and then punishing that use with felony penalties. Drug laws are more damaging to the drug user than the drugs are themselves. And the solution to this problem that has never been done before is simply legalize private drug use, beginning with marijuana. Our current drug policy is built on the assumption that drug use, private drug use, is harmful to the greater interests of our society. We are bombarded by campaigns and statistics telling us how much harm drugs are doing and how many lives that they are costing. And undeniably, people have died from using drugs. But advocates of legalization hasten to make the distinction between the harm done by drugs and the harm done by drug laws. Far more people are killed in the violence of drug trafficking than they are by the drugs themselves. Most people feel that legalizing private drug use would feel official sanction to use drugs, and that the government would in effect be condoning drug use. Proponents of legalization counter this claim by citing the case with alcohol. America has an ever-growing campaign for responsibility in drinking, and the public is continually presented with messages from anti-alcoholic abuse groups and treatment programs. Few would hardly argue that just because alcohol is legal that people would see an endorsement to drink it. Another example would be the Surgeon General's campaign against smoking cigarettes. There are far few people smoking cigarettes today, not because the government outlawed cigarettes, but because of successful educational campaigns. And since these have been so successful in controlling cigarette abuse and alcohol abuse, why not employ these to do other drugs as well? Now, there's one more big objection to drug legalization. Certainly some are going to say, well, if drugs were illegal, there'd be a lot more people doing drugs. Well, how much truth is there in this comment? In the Netherlands, in 1978, marijuana was legalized. Shortly thereafter and all the way up today, there are fewer marijuana smokers in Netherlands per capita than in any other country in the world. Surely there will be some people who would be compelled to experiment with recreational drugs because they're legal. But then still there'd be other people who would learn or discover that the only reason they were compelled to do illegal drugs was from the excitement, the clandestine meetings, and the counterculture that accompanies illegal activity. If the alcohol prohibition and the Netherlands example are accurate indicators, then drug use would not be expected to increase in the event of legalization. Drugs laws should make sense. They should be uniformly enforced. They should carry a penalty in proportion to the damage done by the offender. The mainstream argument for legalization is pragmatic. The war against drugs has failed, and the cost to society in keeping drugs illegal is greater than the cost of learning to live with them. Laws have a tendency to be misinterpreted. For instance, price controls can aggravate inflation. Busing for racial balance causes more segregation. Legislating equality has obviously created inequality. Hello, DEI. Similarly, because of its prohibition, marijuana, the most popular illicit drug of all, is drawn into and added to the same cultural milieu as much more other dangerous drugs. Fortunately, Donald Trump has rescheduled marijuana from a Class 1 drug to a Class 3. We're on our way to getting this legalized. The goal of sensible social policy is to channel natural human desire into a safer direction, not snuff it out. Current drug laws steer people from marijuana to alcohol, which is clearly a bad idea. Legalizing marijuana might steer users of crack, cocaine, fentanyl, PVC towards marijuana, and this is clearly a better idea. Education is a better approach in the atmosphere free of drug trafficking, black market drugs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is high time, so to speak, to reevaluate our national drug policies and to look at whether drugs or drug laws are the greatest evil.